Welcome to The Explainer. In the ancient book of Ezekiel, there's a prophecy that uses the shocking language of a contrary adulteress to diagnose the fall of an entire nation. Today, we're going to unpack this incredibly powerful warning and explore what it might mean.
All right, so here's how we're going to break this down. First, we'll look at the shocking diagnosis God gives in the text. Then, we'll dive into that central metaphor, the contrary adulteress. After that, we'll trace the nation's nosedive from blessing to bribery, and then explore a modern parallel that our source material draws. And finally, we'll get to the heart of it, the logic of reversal that ties this whole warning together.
So, the prophecy kicks off in a really interesting place. It doesn't start with an indictment of the nation's military or its economy. Nope, it starts with a diagnosis of its heart. So what in the world does that mean? Let's find out.
Yeah, so there's no gentle warm-up here. The prophecy opens by dropping this absolute bombshell. It's a stunning and severe verdict on the nation of Judah, and it compares its actions to those of an aggressive, totally out-of-control prostitute.
Now this is super important. When you hear weak heart, you're probably thinking fragile or feeble, right? But in the original Hebrew, that's not what's going on at all. This is talking about a complete moral collapse, a heart that has willfully chosen rebellion and has lost its ability to even think straight. It's not an accidental slip, it's a deliberate choice. Okay, so that leads us right into the core metaphor of this whole thing, and honestly, it's a shocking one. Ezekiel's argument is that the nation's behavior isn't just immoral, it's completely irrational. It's actually worse, he says, than a common prostitute. This slide just lays it all out, doesn't it? A prostitute, in a transactional sense, gets paid. She gains something. But Judah, in this shocking reversal, Judah is actually paying to be exploited. It's this self-destructive cycle that just defies all common sense.
And then the metaphor gets even more intense. This is a really crucial shift. The charge is elevated from a prostitute to an adulterous wife. This isn't just about a bad transaction anymore. It's about betraying a sacred covenant. And this reframes all those political alliances with foreign powers as a deep spiritual betrayal of God.
And you might be thinking, okay, that's some pretty harsh poetry, but this is actually grounded in real history. This isn't just a metaphor floating in space. Let's look at how this played out by comparing two very different eras. So, let's rewind to the good old days, right? The golden age under King Solomon. Back then, because of the nation's faithfulness to its covenant, it became this magnet for blessing. Wealth and tribute literally flowed into Jerusalem as foreign rulers came to honor the nation. And this timeline, wow, it just lays out the whole tragic story. You can see it right here, the slide from a position of honor and receiving gifts to the desperation of kings stripping their own temple just to bribe foreign powers. And you can see where it all leads, to total destruction. And this is where that metaphor gets painfully real. We're talking about kings literally taking sacred treasures, the gold from the temple doors, the silver vessels, and just giving them away, all for a temporary false sense of security from empires that would end up betraying them anyway. It's the ultimate humiliation. Okay, so this is where our analysis takes a turn. The source material we're looking at doesn't just leave this prophecy in the ancient world. It actually draws a direct line, a parallel, to trends observed in modern America. Let's explore that interpretation.
And just to be super clear, what we're about to go through now is the argument from the source material. It's using this biblical prophecy as a lens, as a framework, to look at American history and what it calls the nation's foundational principles.
From an economic standpoint, the source points to this huge flip. It argues the nation went from being a producing nation to a dependent one. It zeroes in on the rise of massive trade deficits, starting around 1973, and compares that outflow of wealth to ancient Judah paying tribute to foreign powers.
The analysis goes deeper into the moral fabric. And again, this is the source making these direct comparisons you see on the screen. It argues that some modern practices are echoes of ancient ones that were condemned, comparing, for example, ancient child sacrifice to modern abortion, and pagan worship to what it calls the modern idols of consumerism.
So after all that, what's the big idea? What's the bottom line in Ezekiel's prophecy? Let's bring it all together and look at the final verdict.
And here it is. This is the conclusion of the matter. The text declares that Judah's behavior is contrary. I mean, think about that word. It means inverted, backward, fundamentally upside down. She pays when she should be paid. She gives away what she should be receiving. Her actions defy all rational and spiritual logic.
So when you boil it all down, Ezekiel 16 isn't just telling a story about ancient Judah. It's laying out what it presents as a timeless principle, almost like a spiritual law of cause and effect. Faithfulness to your foundation leads to blessing, while infidelity, well, it leads to humiliation and a total reversal of fortune.
And that leaves us with this pretty heavy question, one that rings just as true today as it did thousands of years ago. What is the price of abandoning a foundation? Definitely something to think about.